Oh boy, do I have something to complain about. I woke up this morning in incredible pain and with a dead arm. The pain flooded me like a dam bursting its banks, and both my hand and arm lay dormant, unwilling to respond. To be fair though, it wasn't just this morning. The past 10,363 mornings have been exactly the same. This is my life now, in fact more than half my life. From basic self-care like bathing and eating, through to work, leisure and rest, hobbies I enjoy and time with my family, all of this and more has been done for the past 28 years with a completely dead and useless arm, along with severe and at times excruciating, unending pain. Whether I'm spending time with my children, watching a movie or working, I'm in pain. I might be catching up with friends, reading a book, driving my car or riding my motorcycle, or even just sitting down to enjoy a nicely prepared meal. No matter where it is, what it is, and at all times, I'm doing it with a paralysed arm, and also crushing, burning, stabbing, mind-blowing pain. And that's all just a normal day. I've had a couple of minor health issues this year that have hung around for a few months now. Thankfully, I'm on the up, but I've had to overcome this while also dealing with my normal pain and impairment. There is no respite from this. And like the past few weeks, if there's ever anything else in life I'm dealing with, it's never without the eternal companions of pain and disability shadowing me everywhere I go. It certainly does sound like I do have a legitimate reason to complain then, right? And I've been told so from many people that I do. From friends, family, doctors and specialists. But guess what? I have zero complaints. Sure, I've just rambled off a pretty decent list of reasons that anyone could and maybe would complain about, but that's not a choice I want to make. We all have complaints and things to complain about. We have so many, we even have complaint departments. From a product we bought or a service we used, to what other people say and do, our job, the traffic, the weather, politics, not enough hours in the day, bills to pay, queues we have to stand in, the price of basic groceries always on the increase, the ever-rising cost of transportation, how the old generation stuffed things up for us, and how the new generation is too weak and doesn't know how good it has it. We complain about aches and getting old, how no one listens properly, no one has manners and common sense any longer. When driving, we complain that anyone going faster than us is a bloody idiot waiting for an accident to happen, and if someone is going slower than us, well, then they're a nuisance holding us up. If you're an earshot of a conversation at a cafe or a bar, it's not hard to pick up talk full of whinging and moaning, from problems with partners, issues at work and relations up to their old tricks again. All of us, at many stages in our lives, have felt we had good reason to complain and have definitely taken up the opportunity to do so. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius and Seneca all had great reasons to complain too. Epictetus was born into slavery and later in life lived with a crippled leg. Marcus Aurelius, as a young child, lost his father and later was betrayed by his closest friend and most trusted general. Seneca found himself in and out of favour according to who was in power at the time, sometimes banished, other times welcomed back. He went on to become a tutor to young Nero before eventually being forced to take his own life by his former student over claims Seneca was aiming to dispose him. These are only a few of the adversities they faced in their lives. Yet when we read their words left to us in discourses, meditations, and letters from a Stoic respectively, we find no complaining about these events and many others they experienced. Why? Why wouldn't they complain about being born into slavery or being betrayed or being banished from society? Of course, I cannot speak with 100% accuracy as to why they didn't whinge and moan about their circumstances, but I can be quite confident in my assumptions, both through the writings we still have of theirs, plus my own experiences. And my experiences I can most certainly talk about with absolute accuracy. So why don't I complain about the constant, unending pain I experience, or the difficulties and challenges I face every day with only one arm in a two-armed world? Well, there is no one single answer to that question. Instead, I have a few reasons that are important to me that I discovered early on in my journey. And when I discovered Stoicism for myself only a few years ago, I found these same reasons contained within this amazing philosophy. Firstly, and probably of most significance, is understanding what I can and cannot control. This is very easy to identify. I cannot control whether I'm in pain or not, or whether my arm is paralysed. This is not up to me. If it was, then I would go do something about it. I would take action to rectify the situation, and there'd be nothing to complain about. But it isn't. I have zero choice in the matter. Complaining about something out of my control is pointless. All the whinging and moaning isn't going to change my injury. Not only is it pointless, it's also detrimental to my well-being and those around me too. Now, as I've mentioned in a previous video, we do have the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And look, I cannot argue with that statement. Indeed, those that complain do get attention, which is absolutely fantastic if there is something that can be done. Got a toothache that needs attention? Complain to your dentist. You've been overcharged for your groceries? Complain to a staff member. Your manager wants you to work more than reasonably expected in your contract. Complain to someone to make sure that doesn't happen. Complaining is reasonable when there is a course of action available where you only have to bring it to someone's attention maybe once or twice. Although I still would rather view it as exactly that, bringing it to someone's attention rather than complaining. While that is more a matter of semantics, I do find the language we use important with respect to shaping perspectives. Complaining about my spinal cord injury will not change my reality for the better. It will not repair it. It won't make me experience less pain, nor return any function or movement. I will still have to overcome the same obstacles as always. That won't change. What will be different, though, is my attitude and perspective. I will make living with my condition harder through burdening myself with the feelings that accompany complaints: anger, sadness, regret, and frustration, disappointment. Complaining tirelessly will lead me to focus on the problem and not the solution. It will tie me to the very thing I would rather be free of. Instead of appreciating and being thankful for what I do have and can still do, I'll instead overwhelm myself with what I've lost and can't do. Think of a time when you complained about something you couldn't change. I guarantee doing that caused you to focus on the problem and not on moving forward. Epictetus tells his students in his lectures that Stoicism does not promise to secure for us anything out of our control, that it can't change external circumstances, but rather provide us with the means of accepting what nature delivers to us so that we can retain our grasp on peace, tranquility, and freedom. Life won't always deliver to us what we want, and often we can't change this. Like the adversity our three Stoic philosophers experienced. What happened to them was out of their control. Complaining wasn't going to change it for the better. It wasn't going to bring them peace of mind and freedom. It wasn't going to change events to fit how they wanted. It would have only made their troubles worse. While we don't read of any complaints they had about their experiences, we can find in the material we have from them today advice on how to handle events in life that we might feel compelled to moan about. From Marcus Aurelius telling himself to shrug it all off and wipe it clean, every annoyance and distraction, and reach utter stillness, child's play. And reminding himself to not be overheard complaining about life at court, not even to himself. Epictetus tells his students that they should expunge from their lives sighs and sorrow, grief and disappointment, exclamations like "poor me" and "alas," to not add to our troubles by bemoaning what is out of our control. I'd like to add to that list the abbreviation FML. Stoicism has a strong emphasis on understanding what we can control and what we can't, with the former getting 100% of our focus and the latter, what we can't control, getting 0%. Epictetus, in the collection of his lectures contained within Discourses, emphasizes this in the following quote: "I must die, but must I die bawling? I must be put in chains, but moaning and groaning too? I must be exiled, but is there anything to keep me from going with a smile, calm and self-composed?" We only add to our troubles when we complain and moan. This understanding is fundamental to eliminating complaints from our lives. What we can control, the only thing we can fully have power over, is our will. This governs what we make of events that happen to us, what Epictetus refers to as impressions, and our ability to reason with them. We don't control what happens to us, but we do control how we let it affect us. We must die, but must we die bawling? He tells his students that we must conform with what nature delivers to us, to keep our will in alignment with nature. He goes on to say that the refusal to do this, to complain and be unhappy, is akin to being in jail. We might find ourselves in a situation or a place that we can't change, and we try to fight against this. In doing so, we become prisoners in a jail of our own making. He tells how when Socrates was imprisoned, he wasn't actually in jail because he chose to be there. Yes, his body was being held captive, but that isn't in his power to control. The only thing in his power was his mind, his reasoning, and as he chose to not complain and moan about his situation, that he chose to be there, his mind was not jailed. His body was, but he wasn't. It's the same then for me, and for you too for that matter. Using my example, if I decided to fight my reality, to try to change what I can't, to complain and moan about my pain and dead arm, then I would be placing my mind in a prison of my own making. I would be trapped in a cell of misery and desperation. What cell are you making for yourself? In Meditations, Marcus reminds himself to accept with affection what is sent by fate. The German philosopher Nietzsche coined the phrase amor fati, the love of our fate, to not only bear or tolerate hardships, but to actively love them. Before I'd heard of either of these two figures, I had already arrived at a place where I loved my pain and disability. It was logical for me that if I wasn't going to fight it, then I should embrace it, that hating it was poisonous to me. That removed me from any jail I had created for myself. Reading their words cemented to me that although it seemed odd to love adversity, I was on the right path. Think about events in your life that nature has delivered to you that didn't fit in with your plans. It needn't be a life-changing event either. It can be as simple as plans for a night out being cancelled, waiting in traffic when you're late for an appointment, or your car being stolen. Complaining, whinging and moaning will not change the reality you are in, but it will make you feel worse about it. It will steal time from you as you curse and clench your fists. And for what? Nothing. Well, nothing except a bad mood. It's worse when we complain about things that are yet to happen. A commitment we must honour next week, a job we need to do that takes us out of our way, or a meeting with someone we'd rather avoid. Complaining about these events and more before they've happened compounds any suffering we put ourselves through. Seneca, in my opinion, said it best with, "He who suffers before necessary, suffers more than necessary." Let's break that down. It's the start of your week, Monday, and you find out you have to go out of town this weekend to head to an event you'd rather avoid. Complaining about it from Monday onwards will mean only one thing, and it's not that you'll get out of going. Instead, it means your week, and that of anyone in earshot of your complaints, will be full of misery and moaning. You'll be suffering before it is necessary. The weekend comes and you reluctantly head away, already in your own mental jail because of your thoughts. Then we find one of two things happening. You arrive at the event and either you realise your concerns were unwarranted and you have a great time, or you find it to be exactly as expected and you suffer the whole weekend. In either scenario, we have suffered more than necessary. If you were pleasantly surprised to find you enjoyed the trip away, well, the complaining and moaning from Monday until the weekend was unnecessary and a waste of your time. And if it was as terrible as you imagined it to be, you suffered twice for it, once before the event and again during it. Seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Epictetus tells us that we often create our own burdens through our opinions, and this is clear to see in this example. Had we held no opinion about the trip away, we would not create such a burden for ourselves, bringing us all that closer to the peace and tranquility we seek. Not only can our complaining increase the burden we feel, but also that of others around us. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I've been in constant severe pain for the past 28 years. During that time, I've not had anyone leave my circle because they couldn't deal with my situation. No one tell me that they're sick and tired of hearing about it, that it's all I go on about, that I complain too much, because I don't. I know of others with the same injury as me who can tell you a different story. One in particular who struggled to adapt to the changes this injury brings and complained regularly about what had happened to him. The result of this was he ended up lonely and worse off. His family tired of his constant moaning, friends stopped calling, and he ended up hating the world for what had happened to him and how alone he thought this injury had made him. His complaining only served to reinforce these beliefs. Now I feel for this guy and have helped him where I can, and it seems that he is trying to make some positive changes in his life. But the damage is already done. And it wasn't their injury that caused this, it was his outlook. We all know someone similar, someone who struggles for whatever reason with life and complains tirelessly. Are they the sort of person you want to spend time with? Do you feel happy when they walk into a room? Most likely not. In my line of work, I see a lot of people who are so focused on what's not right in their lives that they end up pushing everyone away, compounding their misery and confirming their worst beliefs. There is also one somewhat controversial reason that I choose not to complain, and to avoid anyone choosing to get upset over what I'm about to say, I will explain my position. I have two perspectives that I choose to see myself through. Firstly, an individual perspective. This is about me, how I feel about me and life and the world. The second is a wider perspective, a worldview, one that takes in more than just my story, a perspective that allows me to compare my lot with what others go through. From the individual perspective, I can see that I have a lot to contend with through my injury. Unending pain and physical disability can mean my life can be very challenging at times. In isolation, it is far from the ideal existence, and I need to allow myself the room to cope with the hardships I do face. On the surface, it would seem I've been unlucky. But from the worldview, the wider perspective, well, I have nothing to complain about in comparison to so many. People with far worse injuries and conditions than mine. People who live in countries with inadequate healthcare services. Over 2 billion people don't have ready access to safely managed drinking water. Over 3 billion do not have access to basic sanitation. Approximately 2 billion live in areas of conflict. Again, billions live with some form of food scarcity. In our home, and most likely yours too, there is access to fresh, drinkable water in multiple rooms only a few feet away. We have constant, reliable electricity and sanitation, a fantastic, if somewhat stretched, healthcare service in New Zealand. We have food in our pantry, fridge and freezer, and if we run out, well, we have a wide range of options within walking distance to choose from to restock. There is no threat of war, no bombs falling in our country. Shops aren't closed because of conflict. Yes, I live with constant adversity, but compared to so many, I live a life of complete security and comfort. I don't worry about my children starving or having to walk 5 miles to get water for the family to survive. I don't have to get up at 6 a.m. to work in a market selling what meagre supplies I can gather until late at night just so my family can eat that day. Any of these people would look at my situation and see hope and possibility. They would view me as the lucky one. And if they can do that, if they can see me that way, then I can too. The pushback I experience against this approach is many think it downplays the severity of what they go through. Personally, I disagree. It only downplays it if you choose to see it that way. Others suffering worse than me does not make my pain better in any way whatsoever, nor does it make living with a disability any easier in an able-bodied world. It does not in any way, shape or form diminish what I experience as an individual. What it does do, however, is give me greater perspective. It gives me an appreciation of what I have got, not to focus on what I haven't. It teaches me gratitude, to be thankful for all the greatness I have. This leads me to believing that I have no real right to complain when right now, at this very moment, people are dying from starvation, drinking polluted water, basic illnesses and war, while I sit in the comfort of my office after a nice lunch with a secure, safe roof over my head, and my children are all well and happy being children. In Letters from a Stoic, Seneca writes to his friend who in his last correspondence informs Seneca of trouble he was having with his slaves. Seneca asks him to think of all those who have suffered far worse fates, not, I believe, to downplay his friend's troubles, but to give his friend some Stoic perspective. I mentioned earlier about the use of language and how important I feel it is in shaping our perspectives in life. One particular example that stands out to me is the use of have to rather than get to. When we are asked or requested to do something that interrupts our day, say picking a friend up from across town when we had plans to just relax at home, we'll say that we have to go do this. This implies some reluctance on our part that is not actually what we would choose to do given a choice, and we often complain about this imposition. But if we are a true friend to this person, then isn't it an honour to have that friendship, and to maintain and respect that friendship would also be an honour too. True friends are hard to come by and easy to lose, and while they might be calling on us this time, there will be times when we need to call on them too. If this friend were to die or move away, would we not miss the friendship and do anything to have more time with them? We would love the opportunity to get to pick them up one more time. As none of us really know when we will see someone important to us for the last time, shouldn't we then view such an opportunity as something we are lucky to get to do instead of having to do it? This time might be the last time. It's a small change in letters and language, but to me, it's a massive difference in how we view life. My children's extracurricular activities have seen me over the years navigating rush hour traffic, taking them to dance classes, swimming sports, school, work, or their friends' places. I've sat in gridlock traffic turning a 10-minute journey into a 40-minute trip to drop one child off only to get back into the bedlam to go pick another up. And it's all too easy for me to tell myself I have to do this. That language, however, can breed reluctance and resentment. But here's the thing. I want all these experiences and opportunities for my children. I love that they are so passionate about their endeavours. There could never be any resentment. And in the not-too-distant future, I'm going to look back on these times and wish I could get to drop my girls off to dance and school, or my son to swim squad just one more time, to enjoy those moments together again. But they'll be gone, just memories. So why not enjoy it now, when I actually have it? How often do we complain about having to go to work? While we complain, there are untold numbers of people out there, for whatever reason, who can't find work, who struggle with basic survival and their self-esteem because there are no jobs available. People who would love to have a dependable job with a dependable income to support themselves and their families, and the self-esteem boost that would come with that. People who would love to get the chance to work. If you were injured or developed a health condition that stopped you from working, there will come a time where you wish you could get the chance to go back to your job. Yet so many of us choose to complain about having this, about having to go to work. It's not that we have to go to work, we get to go to work. We don't have to go to the doctor for a basic ailment, we get to. Stating that you have to do something is a complaint. Framing it as you get to do something turns it into something positive, something that we're grateful for, because one day that opportunity might no longer exist. Have you ever experienced asking someone to help you with a task and they agree to, but it's clear to see they really don't want to? Maybe we've been that person. Subtle yet obvious sighs and groans indicating reluctance and complaint. I'm a firm believer that once we've agreed to do something for someone, that this is the point at which we should embrace it, even if it is inconvenient to us. If a friend asks you to help them move house, for example, well, you might rather not spend your weekend packing up someone's belongings and helping them to unpack again. Once you've agreed to do it, there should be no looking back. No grumbles or moans along the way, sulking or asking how much longer. Complaining about having to do something we agreed to do while we're doing it does not make the task better for anyone. Not us, not our friend, not anyone else helping. If you don't want to be there, then tell them of your decision and don't be there. But if you choose to be there, then be there 100%. It's better for you and it's better for everyone else. Who hasn't got a story of a workmate who aggravated and annoyed them? We don't get to choose who we work with, and often this can cause friction. An ex-girlfriend of mine from many years ago had this issue, a colleague she just couldn't get on with, despite trying her best. This person was really doing no wrong, it was just a clash of personalities. Unable to let it go, my girlfriend would bring the problem home too. I'd listen to her tell me about how they did this and it infuriated her, how they said that and it made her feel angry, how the sound of their voice alone was enough to anger her. From pretty much the moment she walked in the door until later in the evening, she allowed this person to steal from her home life through focusing on their behaviour and complaining about it. To what end? It never changed this person's behaviour. It certainly didn't affect them either at work or at home. Management couldn't do anything. This employee was doing nothing wrong. But it affected my girlfriend's day well beyond the hours that they were together. We can't always pick and choose who is in our lives, be it at the workplace or even family and home life, but we do get to choose how much time we invest into them. Complaining about this person never made my girlfriend's life any easier or better. In fact, she would wear herself out over it. It never changed this person's behaviour, just made my girlfriend resent her even more. Again, this comes down to what we can control and what we can't. We cannot control how others behave and act for the most part, especially if they're not really doing anything wrong. But we can control our actions. My girlfriend could have chosen to ignore this co-worker, maybe ask to be in a different department, or even if all else fails, find another job. Any of these choices would have been far better for her than choosing to complain tirelessly and paying the price for that. As I've mentioned in other videos, one of the goals of living a Stoic life is reaching a place of peace and tranquility, no matter what comes our way. Whether it's a life of poverty, physical hardship, challenging relationships, emotional turmoil, injury and disability, chronic pain, or death of those close and important to us. Life will always bring to us things we'd rather not experience, things we refer to as bad, and we like to complain about these bad things. Sickness, financial worries, politics, people, businesses, traffic, and it can initially feel good to blow some steam, right? Complaining, though, means we are at odds with what nature has delivered to us, which takes us further away from peace and tranquility. Epictetus tells us that it's not the events in life that trouble us, but our opinions on them, and our opinions are us incorrectly placing the value of good and bad into externals, things outside of our control. Think of a day you complained about the weather. Maybe it was windy on a day where you wanted it to be still. Was the weather therefore bad? Well, that same day a children's festival was on, and they needed the wind for the kite flying display. Does this mean the weather was good then? No, it was neither. It was just an event, one out of our control. So where does the good and bad exist then? Where it always does, within us. Yes, we might have wanted a still day to enjoy a nice walk along the beach, but that's out of our control. If we complain and moan about this, then we have created our own bad. Instead, if we had found something else to do, maybe go fly a kite, then we would have created good for ourselves. Good and bad exist solely within us, within our choices, and that much is up to us. My injury, my paralysed arm and my pain isn't bad, nor is it good. What choices I make and my actions, well, that's where the good and bad exist. I choose to make good for myself from this, and not having a negative opinion of my situation, not complaining, is good for me. We can choose to complain about things out of our control as much as we like, but it won't remove or reduce our troubles. It won't stop us from feeling pain. It won't change the fact that someone cancelled on us last minute. It won't change other people's behaviour to suit our needs. But it will make our lives less enjoyable, more miserable, and much harder for us to cope with. How can we start to make changes though? How can we stop a habit of a lifetime? Epictetus tells us to change a habit, we need to practice the opposite habit. Instead of choosing to complain about something out of our control and external to our will, choose to accept it. Even better, choose amor fati. Choose to love it. He advises us to become less cantankerous, to start on small things that make us angry before moving on to the bigger things, and I feel the same applies with complaints. Start with the small annoyances and wipe those clean, as Marcus tells himself, and slowly move on to the bigger things. The more we practice this new habit, the easier it becomes, and soon we start to notice that there is actually less for us to complain about. For me, though, I must admit it worked the opposite way. Not complaining about my pain and injury, two bigger events in my life, showed me the fertility of complaining about the small things too. My situation is quite removed from many, though. Stoicism teaches us true freedom comes from having events go in accordance with our will, never contrary to it. That it is us who torment ourselves, who make difficulties for ourselves through our opinions on whether something out of our power is good or bad, when we complain. It pays for us, however, to remember where Epictetus tells us good and bad exist. When we put them in the wrong place, into things outside our control, well, that's where complaints are born. I've heard people say, wouldn't it be great if there was nothing to complain about? Well, will the world ever be perfect for us? No. Even if it was, then logically it won't be perfect for someone else. The world will never be perfect for us. Things will not always go our way. It's not these events that trouble us though. If they did, then everyone would be troubled by the exact same things. Epictetus tells us that Socrates did not fear death, and that therefore death isn't something for us to be fearful of. It's our thoughts and opinions of death that shake us. For some people, death is welcomed. Seneca writes to his friend that the things we grumble and moan about are given to all of us by nature, but anyone who likes may make them easier for themselves. How? By viewing them with calmness and composure. Our thoughts around events are what trouble us, what give us cause for concern and complaint. We don't need to complain to get what we want or need. We just need to communicate. Complaining just reinforces our choice to suffer. I'm not denying that life can be very challenging at times and place us under extreme pressure. I mean, you can take my word that living with my injury means I know this firsthand, excuse the pun. What I'm saying, and Stoic philosophy says too, is that complaining only makes our troubles worse. Do we want a better life for ourselves? Do we want less things to complain about? Do we want more happiness? Then, as Epictetus said, and I'm very fond of quoting, if you want something good, get it from yourself. Thanks once again for joining me on this video series. It's great to have you along. Share with me in the comments section an experience you've had about complaining and what lessons you've learnt from that. Until next time, take care and remember as always to make good out of whatever comes your way.